All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about one of the biggest, most predictable forces shaping our world right now, the silver tsunami. And look, this isn't some far-off thing in the future. It's a massive demographic shift that's already changing our economy as we speak. Okay, get ready for this number, 1.6 billion. That's how many people are projected to be 65 or older by 2050. Let that sink in. That's double the number we have today. And you got to understand, this isn't just a dry statistic. We're talking about a guaranteed, decades-long wave of demand that's going to touch literally every part of our economy. So, what do you call this huge shift? Well, it has a name, the longevity economy. And please don't make the mistake of thinking this is some small, niche market. No way. We are talking about what is quickly becoming the dominant consumer force on the planet. For businesses, for investors, for all of us, understanding what this group needs isn't optional anymore. It's absolutely essential. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the sheer scale of this tsunami. Then we'll look at the bull case, all the opportunity, and then flip to the bear case, the real challenges. And we'll wrap up with a practical strategy for how to think about it all. All right, section 1, the silver tsunami itself. And I want to be really clear here. This isn't some guess or a forecast. It's a reality that's happening right now. We're living through a fundamental shift in who makes up our global population, and you can bet our economies are scrambling to keep up. Okay, now for the exciting part, the bull case. Why is everyone from investors to entrepreneurs so focused on this? Where is all this excitement and, frankly, all this money coming from? Let's dive into the powerful forces driving this absolutely massive, multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. You know, it all boils down to two incredibly simple but powerful ideas. Pillar number 1, the math just doesn't lie. This demographic shift is locked in. It's predictable, it's happening. And pillar number 2, the money. This group holds some serious economic power. Just look at the US. The 50-plus crowd controls a staggering 75% of all the wealth and drives more than half of all consumer spending. It's an economic powerhouse. And if you want a number that really puts this whole thing into perspective, how about this one? $15 trillion. That's the projected size of this market by 2033. It's just mind-boggling. And remember, we're not just talking about healthcare here. This is an entire ecosystem, from housing and travel to tech and entertainment. So within this giant market, where's the real action? Where's the fastest growth happening? Well, the data is pointing to a really clear trend. Home healthcare is growing almost twice as fast as traditional assisted living. And the why behind it is pretty simple and pretty human. Technology is finally catching up and making it possible for seniors to do what most of them want more than anything, to age with dignity right in their own homes. Okay, but it's not all sunshine and roses, not by a long shot. For every powerful reason to be optimistic, there's a pretty serious challenge lurking. So now we have to flip the coin and look at the bear case, the headwinds that could, honestly, throw a wrench in this whole thing. And this slide really gets to the heart of the core tension. It's a collision of two massive forces. On one hand, you have this incredible consumer powerhouse with trillions of dollars to spend on their needs. But on the other hand, you've got a shrinking workforce, a smaller tax base, trying to support this growing retired population. And that puts an almost unbearable strain on public systems like Social Security and Medicare. So let's break down these headwinds a bit more. There are really 3 big ones to watch. First, what we call the dependency dilemma. Fewer workers supporting more retirees, which could actually put a drag on the entire economy. Second, and this one is a huge deal, is the workforce crisis. There is a massive shortage of skilled caregivers, and that might be the single biggest risk to this entire sector. And third, you've got tech hurdles. Real-world issues with adoption, security, and just plain usability that we can't just brush aside. Just to put a fine point on that workforce shortage, check this out. For a lot of care providers, labor costs can eat up as much as 70% of their entire operating budget. 70%. Just imagine running a business where your single biggest expense is also the thing you can't find enough of. That is the incredible financial pressure cooker this industry is in. Okay, so we've got a really powerful bull case on one side and a really daunting bear case on the other. So what do you do with that? How do you even begin to make sense of these two conflicting stories? Well, that brings us to our final section, a strategy for navigating this incredibly complex landscape. The approach we're looking at here is all about tiers, and it's a smart way to balance risk with potential reward. You start with a solid foundation, your tier 1,
the big, stable industry leaders. Then you build on that with what you could call satellites, more focused companies that are riding a specific high-growth wave. And then, for those with a higher risk appetite, you can add some venture-style plays, the innovators, the disruptors, the potential home runs.
Let's put some real names to this to make it super clear. For your Tier 1 core, think of a company like Welltower. They're basically a giant landlord for the senior care industry, stable, diversified. For a Tier 2 high-growth play, you might look at something like a Medisys, which is all in on that aging-in-place, at-home care trend we talked about. And for Tier 3, the enabler, think about a tech leader like Intuitive Surgical. They're not a direct care provider, but their surgical robots are becoming the absolute standard of care, enabling the whole ecosystem.
You know, this quote really sums it all up perfectly. It's so easy to get lost in the numbers and the stocks, but this is so much bigger than just an investment theme. What we're witnessing is a fundamental reshaping of society itself, and its effects on everything, our families, our careers, our politics. Well, they're going to touch every single one of us. So, if there's one key takeaway from all of this, it's this. The longevity economy is all about tension. It's this powerful, undeniable conflict between a massive wave of opportunity on one side and the huge economic challenges, like workforce shortages and strained budgets, that it brings with it on the other. And that leaves us with a big question to chew on. Is the longevity economy the greatest opportunity of the 21st century, or is it our greatest challenge? The real answer, of course, is that it's both. And how we all learn to navigate that duality, that tension, is truly going to define the decades to come.